Welcome in, everyone, and thank you for listening to the 155th ever episode of the Missouri Sports Podcast, brought to you by 106 Apparel and recording from the Revel Advertising Studio in beautiful Springfield, Missouri. I'm one of your hosts, Cameron Albert, alongside my good friend and fellow Mizzou fan, Kyle DeVries. How are you doing today, Kyle?
I'm doing great, Cameron. We just have an absolutely jam-packed episode today. This is one of my favorite episodes of the year, just going through all the players, all the breakouts, all the sleepers, all the everything. So
it's just cool that we have, like, favorite episodes of the year.
Yeah,
because this will be our third season preview. It's very exciting.
Yeah, it's a good one. Lots of info to throw at you.
Oh yeah, we're breaking down all the relevant players. We're gonna actually have to not talk about some of the relevant players because there's just gonna be too many. But we're gonna go through the different position groups, talk about who we think is gonna contribute, and rank the position groups, give you some breakout candidates. Before we do all of that, though, don't forget to check us out on YouTube. And if you are watching on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. We're getting more and more subscribers. We're loving it. We appreciate all of you. Hit the subscribe button. Also, Producer Cameron, we have a special request from our new Patreon supporters. They would like you to give the shout out to them at the top of the show.
Alrighty, shout out to our new Patreon supporters, Parker and Daddy JD. So there's that.
There's that.
Well done.
Hope you enjoy that shout out, fellas. And thanks for your support. They hopped in at the perfect time. Not a coincidence. They are in for the Fantasy Football League. They signed up at the $10 tier on Patreon. That first $10 payment is your entry fee to the Fantasy Football League. And if you're interested in that, the deadline is the end of this month, the end of August. You have to sign up by then, and then we'll be doing a draft right there the first week of September. And then, we'll be off to the races. Not much time left. Just sign up for the Fantasy Football League, but go to patreon.com/Missouri Sports Pod. Patreon.com/Missouri Sports Pod to sign up for the league and look at all the other perks. There's other options. If you're not interested in fantasy football, there's other stuff that you might be interested in over there as well.
A couple more spots for fantasy football.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
We're shooting for a 10-team league, and we don't have very many spots left. So if you have been waiting, now's the time to jump in. Now is also the time to jump on board with the podcast or introduce it to Mizzou fans that don't know about us yet. If you're like me, then you have relatives or friends that midway through the season act like they want to know what's up with Mizzou football. And if you are also like me, it can sometimes be not the most fun trying to get them up to speed on who all the players are or what to expect in the upcoming games and stuff like that. So just direct them our way. We'll take care of all of that for you. We'll tell them all. This is a perfect episode to start because we're going to break down all the players. Next week we're doing the schedule, and everybody will know what to expect come week one. It's almost that time. Kyle, now before we jump into the player previews, let's talk about the biggest news of the week, and that is our friend Luther Burden. He made a decision. He officially decommitted from Oklahoma.
That's the first step. First step of hopefully what is going to be him joining the Mizzou football team at some point.
It's happening.
I really do. I agree with you. I really think that is going to happen. It seems to be kind of a two-team race at this point between Missouri and Georgia.
I'll be crushed. If he doesn't come to Mizzou,
after
I'll be
all
absolutely
of this,
crushed.
Yeah, I mean, we've been hearing rumblings for months and months now that Luther Burden was looking around, looking to get out of his commitment with Oklahoma, and it just kind of seemed like if that happened, Missouri would have the momentum. I'm wearing my black and gold glasses here, yeah. But I mean, it just seems like if he were to decommit from Oklahoma, he's going to go to Mizzou. And now that that's happened, that seems like that's going to be what happens. But as we famously say around here, we got a long way to go before signing day. The season has not even begun yet, so there's a lot to go left in that recruitment, especially with a 5-star player. I mean,
I was surprised to see this announcement so early.
I agree.
I thought we would just be sailing into the season, and I thought it would be like a decommit, new commit kind of back-to-back situation.
Right. Like more of like a traditional flip, like on signing day or something like that.
I thought it would just be like, I thought there would be a Mizzou hat, Oklahoma hat, Georgia and Alabama hats all on the table or something like that.
Right.
And then we wouldn't know anything till then. But, I mean, that still is probably going to be the case. I don't think we're going to know anything till a hat is picked up, and there's probably going to be some kind of switcheroo maybe. I don't know.
Oh, man. Yeah, imagine him, like, picking up the Georgia hat or something and then, like...
Imagine him picking up the Mizzou hat and then switcheroo.
Oh, don't do that to me. Yeah, I mean, as far as a timetable for his commitment to his final school, most likely, I don't know when that's going to be, but
February.
I think
don't expect it earlier than February.
I think we really did at one point think that there's a signing day in December now.
I know. I'm still saying February.
I thought at one point that it would all just happen right there on signing day, whether it was December signing day or February. But I wouldn't be too shocked to see him commit a little bit earlier than that. So
I wouldn't be shocked, but I don't want to expect it.
He still has some official visits that are scheduled for the fall, so he'll probably go ahead and take those, and then maybe make his commitment after that.
Mm.
But still, just fantastic news. I mean, I guess the worst case scenario. Would you rather see him at Georgia than Oklahoma? I mean, I don't know.
That's about the same
at
this point
situation.
Yeah,
so
especially with Oklahoma coming over to the SEC.
Yeah, I said loss.
Yeah, loss situation.
That's not a thing.
Yeah,
you know what I meant.
Yeah,
but
yeah. So one cool thing. There are two cool things that happened on Twitter. A bunch of current Mizzou players, mostly freshmen, mostly St. Louis guys, were like quote tweeting the decommitment announcement, like basically saying, "Come on down."
Yeah.
And so you love to see that. Especially,
you're not a normal recruit when the certain corner of the internet just explodes whenever you decommit from your school. You're not a normal recruit. I think Luther Burden's pretty aware of that at this point. Yeah. And whenever the coach of one of the teams you're interested in makes a subtweet about you, you're not a normal recruit.
Yeah.
It would seem so weird for him not to go to Mizzou at this point.
Yeah, same day as that announcement, Coach Drinkwitz tweeted a picture of him getting a car, a nice Mercedes-Benz from Mercedes-Benz of Columbia, and he said, "Thanks for the 5-star ride." And that's obviously not even a subtle, like you said, subtweet mentioning Luther Burden without actually mentioning him. So there's confidence in the program. There's confidence in the fan base that this is actually going to happen. That means everybody is primed for a letdown, but hopefully that does not happen.
Don't you dare.
What's the percentage chance that Luther Burden comes to Mizzou?
80.
Sounds good to me.
You'll take that?
Yep, I'll go with 80. That sounds fine. Now, we do have some camp news. How do you want to work that in? Do you want to just do that now or work it into the position stuff?
Yeah, we have some just kind of injury notes and some scrimmage notes and that kind of stuff, so I'll kind of just rapid fire put some of that stuff out there for you. We could have talked about some of this last week, but we were doing the Bud Sasser interview, and it was just probably going to be a little bit too long, so we're going to...
Check out the Bud Sasser interview from last week if you haven't yet.
Yeah. So we're just going to kind of recap the last 2 weeks of camp and all that stuff. So if you're super up to date with all Mizzou news, some of this might be a little bit old news to you, but we're going to go over it anyway. So we'll talk about some injuries. Our boy Jamarion Gooch was unfortunately medically disqualified to play football at Mizzou. And when all the the freshman football players, they have to undergo kind of a, I don't know, what do they call it? A physical.
Yeah. Like a screening type of thing. Yeah.
And they identified some kind of health issue that he has. We don't know what that is, but whatever it is, it disqualified him from being able to play. So that's a bummer.
Yeah. Super disappointing for him.
Yeah. And hope he's okay, whatever that is. But he will get to keep his scholarship. So that's good.
Excellent.
Zaquan Reeves is a freshman cornerback, and he had a lower leg injury, and so he's probably going to be out till probably about mid-season. So I would assume that he will take the red shirt, but he still might be able to play in a few games. And then same thing, Jon Jones, they discovered an injury in his physical, and it's not the disqualification, but he is going to be out for the year. And honestly, I don't really know how that works. They're just like, yeah, we're gonna do a physical, and they discover like a year-ending injury. So again, whatever he's dealing with, hope he's all right. But he's gonna be out for the year, so he will take the medical red shirt. I am gonna skip to this most recent week for this week's injuries. Jay Macklin had a broken forearm, so he's going to be out a few weeks. He may be able to return for the first game against Central Michigan, but I wouldn't expect him to be a huge difference maker maybe for that first couple weeks while he comes back from that. And then, of course, the name you really don't want to see on any injury reports is Mookie Cooper. He has a lower leg injury, but luckily it's not very serious. He's going to be ready for the Central Michigan game, but he is going to miss a few weeks of camp.
Yeah, that's fine. Just hold him out of practice. Let him wait till the game starts.
Let
that's
him
fine.
rest.
Yeah,
he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
All right, so I think that's pretty much it for injuries and stuff like that. They did a scrimmage last week, and then they did another one this week. So I'm just going to recap some significant notes from that. So we'll look at the first week's scrimmage. Sounded like the offense really dominated the scrimmage. The defense is working with a new defensive coordinator. They're learning a new scheme. The secondary is going to be playing, primarily zone. There's a lot of things that they're learning right now. So it sounded like the offense really dominated. It sounded like they had a lot of good third down conversions and explosive plays. A couple of notes about some individual defensive players, though. Damien Wilson, he is a freshman, and he was running with the second team defense, and he had an interception. He's a linebacker. Heard some really good things about Mekhi Wingo. He is the defensive lineman freshman from Missouri. Coach said he's got a chance to break the rotation at defensive tackle. He's got good leverage and speed. He just needs to work on consistency. And when you look at the defensive tackle room right now, I mean, they just have a lot of depth. So they don't necessarily need Mekhi Wingo to be a difference maker this year. I think best case scenario, he gets some game experience, maybe keeps that red shirt, and maintains and just kind of fills in for depth this year.
Yeah, I like that.
Hearing some good things about some young wide receivers. Hearing Chance Looper's name quite a bit. J.J. Hester, as well as Jay Macklin, obviously before he got hurt, but all those guys are freshmen and sophomores, and sounds like they're really making waves at camp. Jay Macklin had 7 catches in that first scrimmage, so that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Another note on a guy who hasn't played a whole lot but will this year, and that's Elijah Young. Sounds like he had a nice touchdown reception, so they might be trying to use him in the pass game. And then here comes the hype train for none other than Michael Cox.
Okay.
My boy, Michael Cox.
We're here for it.
Had a 60-yard touchdown run.
Jeez.
Was against the second defense.
Okay.
But I still think that Michael Cox will probably – I don't want to really see him play this year. He's probably still 4th string on the depth chart. But for a walk-on running back, that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
And that's got to be pretty special for him to score a 60-yard touchdown run in practice in a scrimmage. That's got to feel good.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we'll jump to this week's scrimmage. Didn't have quite as many notes as the first week, but it sounded like it was the revenge from the defense this week. The pass rush was dominant. Coach said that the defensive line had 9 sacks, so obviously they can't tackle the quarterback,
right.
But they're still putting pressure on. They had 3 forced turnovers, and then it sounded like they just were tackling much better. An important note that I should bring up about this scrimmage is that Conor Basilak missed practice today. Sounds like he was dealing with a minor illness, and they said he's vaccinated, but they went ahead and just tested him for COVID just to see what came up there, but they didn't think it was anything too serious. But it is important to note that it was the backup quarterbacks playing in the scrimmage today, so obviously the defense dominated. It could have been because of that.
Yeah.
Sounds like the Tulsa transfers are doing well. Caleb Evans and Allie Green, they are pushing the returning cornerbacks for those starting spots. Rakestraw and Ish Burdine are the 2 returning cornerbacks, but I would not be surprised at all to see a Caleb Evans starting alongside Rakestraw, and Allie Green might be able to crack into that starting rotation as well. So,
yeah, I think that, we'll get to that when we talk about that position specifically, but that's totally expected, at least for me.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would be disappointed if that was not what we were hearing.
Yeah.
So that sums up the scrimmage notes.
We're caught up then.
We're caught up.
All right. So let's jump into these player previews. We'll start on the defensive side of the ball, and we will begin with the defensive line. So a group last year that kind of had their ups and downs. They were able to get some pressure on the quarterback at times, and it made the entire defense look a lot better when they were able to do that. But that wasn't a consistent feature from this defensive line. That's something that we hope they'll get better at this year. But they were pretty solid in the middle, stopping the run, I would say, with help from the linebackers. We can begin with this group wherever you want. Maybe we'll start with who you think are going to be the major contributors. Obviously, we have Akale Byers and Kobe Whiteside returning, as well as Trajan Jeffcoat on the outside. So I'd say those are the top three holdovers from last year on the defensive line. What do you think about those three, and then where do you think we go from there?
Yeah, it's you said it perfectly that the defensive line was pretty up and down last year, but they were able to get some good reinforcements in the offseason. But it is nice that some of these guys are coming back, whether they're just returning. Like Trajan Jeffcoat, obviously, he's not a senior, but it's good to have him back. You mentioned Akale Byers, Kobe Whiteside, and then Chris Turner are the three seniors that return for their fifth year, their COVID year, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
None of those guys are Kobe Whiteside's a good player, but none of those guys are just program changers or anything. But it's just great to have some consistency, and for them to be able to kind of help the new guys transition in is so big. I think if I would project the starting defensive line, it would probably be Trajan Jeffcoat. Obviously, he's the staple. But I would say alongside Jeffcoat at the other defensive end position, I'm going to say it's probably Isaiah Maguire. I think he's kind of a talented younger guy. He's played some the last year or two, but I think that he is poised to really make a difference this year. So I think those two guys start at defensive end. And then on the inside, they've got a lot of guys that can rotate in. I think Kobe Whiteside for sure is going to start, but I think you'll see a lot of Akale Byers. I think you'll see a lot of Realist George and probably a lot of Darius Robinson. All those guys are going to play a ton.
Isaiah Maguire, he was listed as one of the starters at end in the bowl game depth chart last season. So he was above Chris Turner at that time. So it seems like he is the guy that looks poised to step into that role.
For sure, yeah. He's a very versatile player. I mean, he's played inside and out at his time at Mizzou. So I think just because they have great depth on the inside, they've kind of had him transition to defensive end, but I think he's going to be really good there.
It's always nice to have players on the defensive line that you can kind of move around to different spots.
For sure. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure where they're going to play Realist George. I don't know if he's going to play in the interior or if he's a defensive end, but I definitely think you will hear his name called a lot.
One thing that I found interesting, I was looking at sportsreference.com and looking at Mizzou's defensive stats for last year, and kind of stuck out to me that like Isaiah Maguire only played in 7 games last year, but same with like anybody else kind of in that same vein. Like Trey Williams only played 7 games. Kobe Whiteside only played in 5 games.
Yeah, Kobe definitely was dealing with an injury last year for sure, and he looks like he's really revamped himself. Like he looks like he really kind of focused on improving his body on the off season. He's just so strong. I don't know. I think he's going to be really good if he can stay healthy.
Jeffcoat, I think wasn't there for the first 2 games. I have him down as only playing in 8 games, but so it'll be really interesting to see. That's like the entire offensive line that we're talking about. Like none of those guys played an entire season last year.
Yeah.
So if we can get all these guys back and healthy for an entire season, then I think we can see that consistency that we didn't get last year.
Yeah, that's why depth is important. I mean, guys get hurt, guys get tired in the middle of games. Like it's good to be able to just rotate guys in and out and not be able and not drop off in talent.
Right. And you talked about Wingo, the freshman in the camp report.
Yeah.
He looks like he's ready to contribute.
Yeah, Mecky Wingo, Kyron Montgomery, Travian Ford are all guys that we'll probably see get in there in the mix a little bit this year as well.
With those freshmen, who do you think is most likely to play more than 4 games and not be able to redshirt?
I think they will all redshirt, but if I had to take a stab at one, I'll say Kyron Montgomery.
Okay. Very cool. I've got a specific question for you about Trajan Jeffcoat. Over or under? So last year he had 6 sacks. Over or under 6.5 sacks?
I'll say over. I think that the defensive line, and this is a little bit of a guess, but I think the defensive line is going to be a little more aggressive this year. I think he was kind of a one-man wrecking crew last year and was still able to really make a name for himself, and I think he's going to have a little more help. And whenever the offensive line is able to focus one guy, it's really hard to make a difference. But if they just have to worry about everybody equally, that's, I think, when Trajan's going to be able to take the next step. And this is really his first kind of conventional off season in the program, and maybe, I don't know, ever. I don't know if he ever had a full off season where he was with the team the whole time.
Right.
I mean, he could really make a dramatic step forward.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, we might see teams towards the beginning of the season like cue in on him a little bit more than the rest of the line. But if the rest of the line is able to step up and make teams pay for doing that, then they'll have to shy away from that at some point.
For sure.
All right. You ready to move on to the linebackers? Obviously, we're getting Devin Nicholson returning, and then we're getting the huge addition of Blaze Aldridge, one of the best linebackers in the country last year. Just in a much needed spot. Like, Missouri absolutely needed somebody that was going to be able to step up and fill that gap in the linebacking core, and he, by all accounts, seems more than capable of stepping right in.
Yeah, obviously Nick Bolton is a pretty large hole to fill, but I feel confident that Blaze is going to be able to fill in admirably. I don't think he's going to be Nick Bolton, but I don't think he needs to be.
I don't think he'll have to cover up as much.
Right.
That Nick Bolton just
erased the mistakes of the defensive line.
Right.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I almost think that he can provide something that Nick Bolton didn't, in the way that he can just attack, and his pursuit of the quarterback, I think, can actually maybe be better than Nick Bolton. Nick Bolton was just, I don't know, the way that he understood plays, and he was just a great run stopper.
Mm-hmm.
That I think he was obviously going to do that better than Aldridge can. But
yeah, Nick Bolton had the incredible ability to meet the running back in the hole and just stop him so often.
He just knew what was going to come. He just knew what play was going to happen before it happened a lot of the times, I think. But Aldridge, I'm really excited to see what he brings. I think he could be pretty electric.
Nick Bolton last year had 53 solo tackles, 95 total in 10 games. Devin Nicholson, not too shabby himself, 34 solo tackles, 69 total on the season. I think Nicholson's numbers might creep up just a little bit, but I still think Blaze Aldridge will be the tackle leader on this team. Yeah,
Nicholson's definitely just a consistent staple of the defense. I feel like he was never injured or anything. He was just kind of always dependably there. I think we may see a lot of defensive sets where we only have 2 linebackers on the field and it's just those 2 guys. If we do have some sets where there's a third linebacker in the field, I'd probably look for Chad Bailey to get in there a little bit. And he's been in the program for quite a while, but has dealt with injuries and just kind of gotten buried on the depth chart and stuff. But I think he'll get to play a little bit more this year.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the name of the analyst who named Devin Nicholson as a top 5, maybe breakout linebacker.
Was it Cole? I don't know how to say his last name.
Yeah, that's it.
Starts with the C.
Yeah.
Cube something.
I'll see if I can find it.
I saw that as well.
So, I mean, that's a good note for your guy that is, going into the season, you're looking at him as the 1A to Blaze Aldridge.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely don't think that, some of these other guys, Jamie Petway, Damien Wilson, Zach Lovett, Will Norris, some of those guys are younger. I think they'll have their time eventually, but you probably don't want to see them on the field too terribly much this season unless they're just performing incredibly. But I definitely think that we've got our guys that we want to see on the field this year in Blaze and Devin Nicholson. and hopefully that they're able to stay healthy because linebacking the depth just isn't great, and I think that in some of the position groups, other position groups on defense, they kind of have the luxury of depth, but a linebacker could be a little more sketchy if they were to see some injury problems.
Yeah, in the last few years, I mean, Missouri's had linebackers that just literally want to be out there every single snap. Like Cale Garrett and Nick Bolton, you'd have to literally pull them off the field. They want to be out there. So there hasn't been that much need for depth. Obviously, when Cale Garrett went down with injury, then that lack of depth kind of became more apparent. But I think the linebackers we've got two really solid guys there, and hopefully they stay healthy and can eat up all those snaps, and the younger guys or the guys that don't have as much experience can just kind of be there when needed but not be really relied on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would definitely say Blaze maybe was the most necessary addition on the entire defense of the offseason, just as a player who is going to be most relied upon out of all the additions. I think it's probably him.
Yeah, and they just knocked it out of the park by bringing him in.
They did.
All right, time to move on to the cornerbacks. We have returning starters, Ennis Rakestraw and Ish Burdine, and then we have the newcomers that we've already talked about, Caleb Evans and Allie Green. Sounds like there's a lot of competition there for kind of two starting spots at cornerback, but obviously that is definitely a position group where you rotate guys in and out a little bit more often.
Yeah, for sure. I think we'll see a lot of Rakestraw and a lot of Evans, but just with this new defense, I think that we're going to see a lot of guys in the secondary. It's possible that Rakestraw, Evans, and Allie Green all start at the same time.
Right.
They'll probably all be on the field at the same time quite a bit. Ish Burdine, it sounds like he's gotten good reviews in camp and has played quite a bit. I know he's not a name that maybe not as many Mizzou fans probably know his name as Rakestraw, but it sounds like he's really kind of holding his own as far as kind of defending off that starting spot. He's not letting the Tulsa guys just come and take it from him.
Yeah, and that's like I said when we kind of touched on that in the camp notes, but when those two guys were brought in, I fully expected them to be immediately competing for starting jobs.
Right. That's why you bring in a graduate transfer for sure.
Yeah, and if the returning starters are fighting back and not letting them have it easily, then even better.
Yeah, I agree. Then just a freshman name to keep an eye on that I think could crack into the rotation this year is Dalen Carnell. And he was a 4-star recruit from Indianapolis, so yeah, I like him quite a bit.
Very excited about him. It may not be his time quite yet, but it won't be long.
Yeah.
All right, the other aspect of the defensive backfield, the safeties, and I'll just come out and say it. The player I'm most excited to watch this season, it's the easy choice, Martez Manuel. He has kind of just taken over the leadership role of the defense. It seems like he seems to know that he is good at football and be proud of it and want to show how good he is every single week and every single practice, and I'm here for it. I love it.
Yeah, oh man, he's so much better than I think anybody could have ever hoped. Just kind of the local Columbia kid. I mean, not that we thought he was a scrub, but right. I mean, he just has really kind of had a meteoric rise to the leader of the defense. In interviews, he's mature, he's well-spoken. He's a smart guy. He's just a great football player. Mm-hmm. And I agree with you. I'm really excited to see how he's improved his game in the offseason and how he's able to lead the defense.
Yeah, because he didn't really struggle that much last year. I mean, he had some kind of young player type plays, but the defense as a whole, the defensive secondary as a whole at times would just kind of give up head-scratching big plays. But that's kind of college football for you to some extent.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's got maybe the best chance out of all the defenders to leave early for the NFL this year, after this season, of course.
So, who are some other safeties that we expect to get some play, and should we keep an eye on any one guy? Maybe even not a guy that might play a ton this year, but who's going to step up if Manuel leaves early?
Well, definitely, I think the two starting safeties are going to be obviously Manuel, and then I think the other one's going to be Jalen Carlisle. And Jalen's almost a little bit different kind of player than Martez, where I think he's just a more explosive athlete. He's so strong and fast. He's kind of fits the Tyree Gillespie mold, where he's just going to fly around the field. make big hits and that kind of stuff. I think he's definitely one of those up and comers that has played a little bit, but and every time he's been on the field, he's been great. And I think he's really going to make a name for himself this year. And
he was a recruit that we were excited about at that time too.
I think you'll definitely see some Jelani Williams, some Stacy Brown. You may even see some Sean Robinson.
I want to see Sean Robinson.
Yeah, I love Sean Robinson. He seems like such a chill, like down to earth guy who's just like willing to fill any role that coach asks of him.
Just unheard of that he would come in as the starting quarterback and then lose the job and then just be like, yeah, I'll play safety.
Yeah, it's wild.
Just insane.
You never hear anything about that.
Yeah.
But what was I going to say about Sean Robinson? Oh, yeah, he played in the Mississippi State game last year.
Right.
Because depth was awful.
Right.
And he played really well. He just he plays hard. He was in the right spot at the right time and was making some pass deflections. And, I mean, he's going to come out and he's going to have to hit people, you know? And a lot of, like, former quarterbacks probably don't want to do that and have never had to ever do that.
Right.
So it'll be fun to see him get in there a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, the buy-in from him, that's got to be like all-time, like program buy-in. Like we should have him like hosting recruits. We should probably make him a recruiter once he's done playing, because I don't know, he seems to get what the coaching staff wants to do, and he's all in.
For sure.
All right, so we've covered the defense. It's kind of refreshing to have so many familiar names on this list. Like, there's not that much turnover.
Right. It's like, as far as personnel goes, there's a lot of consistency, but what's exciting, I think, is we're going to see a totally different scheme.
Right.
New defensive coordinator. We're going to see, I mean...
You said exciting. I would have maybe said scary, but yeah.
I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be an upgrade, and maybe I'm just being a little optimistic here, but I think Mizzou ran man defense maybe more than anybody in the country last year, and I just think that that's a good way to, I don't know, get beat sometimes, especially if you don't have like the perfect personnel to run what you want to run. I'm just excited to see Mizzou run a little more zone this year. I like what Steve Wilkes brings. I definitely I think the defense is going to be improved this year.
Okay, so we've got the defensive line, the linebackers, the cornerbacks, and the safeties. Which unit do you think is going to be the best? That's subjective, but however you want to determine the best unit on defense, the most productive or the most solid unit there?
That's a good question. I think linebacker is probably distantly fourth for me. Maybe not distantly, but it was an easy fourth for me. Just because of lack of depth. Yeah. If somebody gets hurt, who knows what's going to happen?
Right.
That could be a dangerous situation, but I definitely like the starters. Third, oh man, this is tough. I actually ranked them as just all DBs together, so I'm thinking here on the spot. I would probably say I don't know, man. I'll probably say the D-line would be third.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And then I'd probably go safeties and then cornerbacks.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Those other position groups outside of cornerback have like standout players that we think are going to make big plays and just be really solid. The cornerbacks, there's like 4 or 5 guys that we think could just be really solid. Right. And you know, you're not going to see a lot of drop-off when you switch some of these guys out.
Yeah, I agree with you that, you know, on paper before the season starts, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I'm also would not be surprised if at the end of the year we were like, holy cow, this defensive line was awesome, and they were far and away the best position group. I think there's a lot of potential on the D-line too. Just some unrealized talent of guys, some newer faces that maybe we haven't seen do it yet, but I know they're capable.
I could also see Rakestraw and Evans at cornerback just kind of distancing themselves from any of the other players at that position by the end of the season.
That's definitely possible too.
Okay, give me a defensive breakout player. I was kind of thinking through this myself, thinking about who I would choose, and every player that I'm excited about is like has either been here or is like a graduate transfer and has played before. So it's like
there's not a whole lot of like candidates that could even qualify as a breakout candidate.
Like we know everybody that we expect to be good has shown that they can be, at the
Right.
on the biggest stage.
Yeah, there was definitely two guys that I think stand out whenever you're talking about breakouts this year. It's maybe some younger guys that have a chance to really take that next step this year.
Mm-hmm.
If I had to pick one, I think I would go with the Jalen Carlisle. I think he's just going to be fantastic this year.
Okay. Who do you remember who your breakout defensive player was last year?
I was hoping you wouldn't ask. I think I said Stacey Brown last year.
I got you.
But that obviously he didn't really end up coming true.
Yeah.
But
I actually found a YouTube comment from our player previews last year that mentioned now I lost
Darius
it.
Robinson.
That mentioned Darius Robinson.
Yeah.
So I think maybe that commenter was just a little bit early.
Yeah, maybe just a year early. Because Darius Robinson, just athletic freak for sure. You might have just been one year early, but Robinson definitely is definitely a candidate that could break out this year.
I just want to watch Martez Manuel. I want to see how good a Caleb Evans is going to be.
Yeah.
And I just cannot wait to watch Blaze Aldridge play.
I wouldn't even expect Evans to. It's easy to pick these breakout candidates for like Isaiah Maguire or Jalen Carlisle because those are the guys that are going to be coming up and making exciting plays, or making a sack or an interception or whatever it is. A Caleb Evans is going to be one of those players where you kind of just hope you don't really hear about him much, like Rakestraw last year.
Just lock
because
up
that
guys.
just means he's doing his job, and if they're not throwing at him much, that means he's locking dudes up.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think, and that's just the kind of player that Evans is. He's not like a dare you to throw at me, like I'm gonna play loose and then I'm gonna try and pick it off or jump the route. He's just gonna cover you up.
Yeah.
And so you really might not hear his name called a lot this year, because that just means he's doing a really good job.
I hope some quarterbacks try to force throws in his direction.
Yeah.
All right, we're ready to move on to the offense, and we will begin with the offensive line. And we have one of the team captains with Case Cook representing the offensive line and returning starter Michael Maietti. And after those two, maybe there's some competition to be had at some different spots.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Maietti and Case Cook both, like you said, are definitely a staple of the offensive line. They're starters for sure. Nobody's going to push them on that starting job. But when you look at left guard, I think
I got to interrupt you real quick.
Go right ahead.
What a relief to have Maietti back.
Oh man,
I mean,
that was the biggest player to announce his return. I think that was the one I was most excited about. That's huge to have that guy snapping the ball for another year.
Yeah.
He is the embodiment of consistency. Just like I think he's like never missed a game or something in his like entire college career. Like he's
going
just,
back to Rutgers.
Yeah, he just is never hurt. He's always there doing his job. So at left guard we've got Xavier Delgado. I think he'll most likely be the left guard starter there. Then we'll probably see him for most of the season. He did get hurt last year, and Luke Griffin stepped in and played really well, kind of filling in for him. So I guess it's possible you could see Luke Griffin push for that starting spot, but I think that ideally we'll see Delgado there at left guard. Yeah,
Delgado was the starter in the bowl game according to the depth chart, so it seemed like he, was able to regain his starting job just fine.
And then, I definitely think the tackle positions are pretty up in the air. I think we've got position battles there at both of those spots. So you look at who I think will probably start at right tackle is Hiron White. And he's a guy who's been in the program for a few years now, but he had a season-ending like shoulder injury or something last year.
That was a sneaky, just like terrible injury last year.
Yeah, for sure.
One that I was kind of like forgotten about was like.
Yeah, that may have been the position that Larry Borum played, and so that ended up obviously working out amazingly. So, but I think Hiron White will hopefully bounce back from that injury and be able to get that starting spot. But he's going to have to fight off Connor Wood, who is the Montana State transfer. We got him this summer, and sounds like he's kind of worked himself right into the rotation and has played really well. He's a big athletic guy. So, again, ideally, I think they'd like White to win that job, but wouldn't be surprised to see Connor Wood get in there. And then at left tackle, we've got Javon Foster and Zeke Powell. And I think Powell probably played mostly there at left tackle last year.
Yeah.
But Javon Foster is just getting a lot of praise in camp. Sounds like he's doing a really good job. So sounds like he might win that job at left tackle. But again, it's good to have depth. I think for the most part, we'll if any of those guys get hurt, we'll be able to have somebody fill in.
Yeah. No, I think I'm happy with this offensive line unit. I think that it seems like we're pretty solid there.
I agree.
All right, moving on to tight end. This is a position that Missouri historically has had, just incredible players, and last year was not as productive for the tight ends. Nico Hay did come in and catch some huge passes in specific games and made his presence felt. Daniel Parker Jr. is like the best blocking tight end in the country. I'll just come out and say it. And he can catch the ball and make plays too. But his strength is obviously blocking, and he seems to really enjoy it, or he at least
takes pride in his craft.
Yes, exactly, because he works really hard when he's in there and he knows what his job is. He just like bowls guys over.
For sure. Yeah, he was he's a very athletic guy. He played both sides of the line in high school, and I think he was even recruited as an offensive lineman at times. So. He has always had that skill set, and he's very good at it. But yeah, the tight end room has been a little bit unreliable at times in the last couple of years. And like you said, historically, we've had a lot of great tight ends at Mizzou, receiving tight ends, but we haven't really had
just
that.
Like pure touchdown catchers.
Right.
That's what we've had.
We haven't really had that since Albert O. And so I definitely think that, especially in Coach Drink's offense, they are just desperate for a tight end to step up in the receiving game. Mm-hmm. So, like you said, I don't think Daniel Parker Jr. is that guy that's going to be the consistent pass catcher in the offense. I think he will do it some, but he's not going to go out and catch 10 touchdowns. I just don't see that happening.
Right.
I don't know if I see that from any of these guys this year, but I definitely think Nico Hay is probably the most reliable receiving threat. And I definitely would throw out Messiah Swinson. I think he's a guy that could challenge for that receiving tight end spot too, who's probably the most athletic guy as far as just going out and route running and catching and stuff like that, but he's just kind of dealt with injuries and stuff.
Yeah, we've got like tall, strong, athletic bodies at tight end. And like I said, Nico Hay has shown that he's capable of catching touchdowns. And there's two up-and-comers in freshmen Ryan Horstkamp and Gavin McKay that I think obviously this year is not their year to really break through, but you can see Missouri they're keeping the cupboard stocked with guys that have the measurables, have the athleticism, and it's only a matter of time before one of these guys kind of sparks and just really takes off.
Yeah, I think they'll really be dependent on those freshmen probably next year to step up because Daniel Parker Jr. will graduate.
Nico Hay's just going to be a junior.
Yeah, I think he might be a junior
this coming season.
Right.
Yeah.
So he'll have another year most likely.
So this is his opportunity, I think to
so.
Show that he can be the guy for the next 2 seasons.
I agree.
Do you see either one of those freshmen losing their red shirt?
Probably not.
Okay. It's probably for the best.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on to receiver. This is an exciting position group to talk about.
This is a fun one.
It kind of always is, but this year in particular. Obviously, everybody knows about Kiki Chisholm. Everybody knows about Towsky Dove. We haven't seen either one of these guys play, but everybody knows about Mookie Cooper and Dominic Lovett. Chisholm, Dove, Cooper, that seems to be the threesome that are going to be out there the most at the same time. Would you agree with that?
Who were the three you said?
Chisholm, Dove, Cooper.
I think so.
I want to give you credit for correctly predicting that Towsky Dove would be a breakout player last season. On episode 105, you picked him as your offensive breakout candidate, and he lived up to that, definitely.
Yeah, that was a little ballsy because we hadn't seen anything from him at all, and he took a surprising step. He was really, really good last year.
Very consistent.
Probably has the best hands in the room, just catches everything. Dove's a great player.
And Kiki Chisholm came on late at the end of the season and really showed, and maybe that was just, it took him that long to adjust to not only Division I football, but like the best Power 5 conference Division I football.
Yeah.
I think he will be more accustomed to that this season and hopefully start faster. But I think he could separate himself as like the number one guy that's just going up and catching everything.
I think so too. And I've been on Chisholm for this whole offseason, just kind of talking about how he has the chance to be really special, and just given his athletic traits and his body, just like the 6'5" prototypical, like almost NFL style receiver, has a chance to be a deep threat and kind of a possession receiver. I think Keke Chisholm is very exciting, and also Conor Basilak mentioned him as the guy that could be kind of that number one go-to guy in an interview maybe last week or 2 weeks ago. So that is not new news to anyone around the program that Keke Chisholm is special and could have a really big year.
Not new news, not old news. Not news at all, you could say. Okay, Kyle, then let's jump to the freshmen real quick because that's exciting. Mookie Cooper, everybody's loving what he's bringing to camp. There was I can't remember who said it, but there was a specific quote about him being able to lose his guy in a phone booth.
I believe that was Carlisle that said that.
Yeah.
But that was a funny quote.
That's an excellent line, and that illustrates what he's capable of. Like,
sure.
If there's a defender on him, they're not going to be on him very long, and that's kind of what we need. I love the idea of Cooper kind of being that like slot receiver who is moving all around the formations and maybe taking some of those underneath passes to the house.
For sure. Yeah, I definitely view Mookie Cooper as maybe the slot receiver, the short pass guy. They call it the extension of the run game, almost just kind of those quick lateral passes. I think you'll see him moving a ton in the backfield, maybe doing some reverses, some fake reverses. I remember last year the announcers constantly referred to the offense as what do they call it? A lot of window dressing and like eye candy. Yeah, you'll see a lot of that. You'll see a lot of Mookie Cooper running around in the backfield before the ball is even hiked. I think you'll see a lot of that. And then I see Dominic Lovett as maybe more of a deep threat. I think they'll try to get him just running straight to the end zone and trying to kind of take the top off the defense with Lovett. But I still think that Lovett can do that kind of stuff too. I think you'll see them both probably used both out in both of those ways. There's
no chance that Lovett is like takes a back seat and potentially redshirts or anything like that. I mean, he is a freshman coming into the SEC. That's not usually like step in and be a significant contributor day one, but he is a higher caliber of incoming freshman wide receiver than Missouri's used to.
Right. I think when Lovett first committed, I definitely would have said he probably just plays sparingly, maybe red shirts. But the more we've learned about him and heard about how special he is, I definitely think that he will probably burn the red shirt this year. I think he'll play in every game, and he'll be on the field quite a bit. I think he'll make an impact for sure.
Sounds good to me. All right, so we've got kind of the top of the group, the top of the receiver group covered. Run us through some guys that will contribute, even if it's sparingly, and some of the depth pieces at receiver that we should take note of.
Well, everybody obviously knows Barrett Bannister, who's kind of been I think I called him the third down champion in last year's episode.
Yeah, he was my offensive breakout player, and that didn't quite come to pass.
Yeah, but he's still a useful cog in the offense for sure.
He's solid.
And again, kind of like Towsky Dove, just catches everything, makes contested catches, makes important third down conversion catches. So excited about Bannister. He's just very consistent. He's always there. And then definitely some names that we've been hearing good things about that we may kind of see creep onto the scene this year is J.J. Hester and Chance Looper. And Chance Looper kind of famously had like one catch last year, but it was like a huge play against LSU where he kind of caught almost like a slant over the middle, but he shook some defenders. He shook Derek Stingley Jr., who's going to probably be the first cornerback off the board in the NFL draft next year. The top cornerback in the country. He made him look awful.
Literally one of the very best players in all of college football.
He put him on skates. So that was his one contribution for the entire season last year, but
that's a good one.
A memorable one. Yeah. So I definitely think he'll get in there. And then J.J. Hester was a 4-star recruit from Tulsa who didn't play a whole lot, if any, last year, but I've heard great things from him this year. Coach Drinkwitz has mentioned his name many times in interviews, so definitely think you'll see Hester get in there quite a bit. And then, of course, I think you'll see Jay Macklin. I think he does some things they want to run really, really well. I think maybe some short passes and stuff. I think he can be explosive in some of those plays. So you'll definitely see him quite a bit as well.
A fan favorite, and maybe that's not even true. One of my favorites, Michael Wilson, another guy that, similar to Sean Robinson, like, no, you're not going to be the starting quarterback at Missouri, but we have a role for you, and he's a depth piece at receiver, and he caught a wide open bomb in the LSU game last year, and a
lot of guys made a name for themselves in that LSU game.
Yeah, a lot of offensive players, yeah. He has extreme speed, and if you can kind of like keep his legs fresh and just be like, okay, come in for a few plays and just run as fast as you can, then that's useful.
Yeah, he looked pretty smooth on that catch against LSU, that touchdown catch.
He was
LSU.
Wide open, but it was just like, looked
easy for him.
Yeah, absolutely. The perfect pass. And Boo Smith is a guy that last year kind of showed he has something that he can contribute. Now, perhaps he's been just completely recruited over, and there's not really much room for him to contribute this year, but he's kind of just like a shifty guy who is hard to bring down, and we've got a few guys like that this year in the receiving core and also in the running back room that are capable of making a guy miss when they get the ball in their hands. And there's times in recent Mizzou history where it's like some of our receivers, we're only going to get whatever we get when they catch the ball. There hasn't been that much explosiveness necessarily up until maybe last year. But I'm super excited about this group. Mookie Cooper, one of the better players, just period, from a recruiting standpoint that Missouri has had on their roster in a while. I just can't express how excited I am to watch these guys play and just see who is coming down with the passes, who makes the first team, and then who gets reps.
Yeah, I mean, it's not every season that we have a borderline 5-star freshman with 4 years of eligibility left just come in and be able to, I don't know. It's exciting.
Yeah.
We don't get to see the Mookie Cooper types don the Missouri uniform very often. So
we might do it 2 years in a row.
We might. So yeah, the wide receiver room could be pretty special here the next few years, but we don't want to get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, the Missouri quarterbacks should be very thankful for these guys and the coaching staff for recruiting them.
Yeah, seriously.
All right, moving on to running back. We have a favorite of the show, specifically Kyle's favorite player on the roster. I'll just say it. Tyler Beatty.
Exactly right.
He is coming back for another season, and he will be the lead back. He will not be able to take over the Larry Roundtree role because nobody can, but he will do his best and also just be a little bit more versatile than Roundtree was. Maybe not as good of a pure runner, at least not so far that we've seen, but he is very capable. And then he will also have Elijah Young right there ready to give him a break or just kind of be that change of pace that Missouri will need at times. But I think those two guys are very similar type of running back, and both are capable receivers, and we've seen some of that in camp. So I'm excited for those two.
Yeah, I think it's pretty well documented at this point that I love Tyler Beatty, but and you'll probably see the Missouri Sports Podcast Twitter account tweet that many times this year that we love Tyler Beatty, because we do. And, as much as we love Larry Roundtree and what he provided the last few years, I always just kind of wish that Tyler Beatty would have been able to be involved a little bit more, especially last year. It seemed like, he was just a perfect change of pace back whenever, Larry Roundtree was out of the game or whatever, and they brought Tyler Beatty in. It just always felt like he was so productive.
Oh, yeah. He would have 6 touches in a game, but have 50 yards rushing, 50 yards receiving, and a touchdown.
Yeah, he's so efficient. So, of course, I'm so excited to see Tyler Beatty take on a bigger role this year and just kind of see if they can turn him loose. And, I mean, with a player that's as efficient as he's been historically, with an uptick in touches, that could be really exciting to watch.
So how much is Elijah Young going to be relied on? Is he going to be as much a part of the offense as Tyler Beatty was last year?
Yeah, I think so. Because I don't think Tyler Beatty is going to see the touches that Larry Roundtree had last year, but
he's not going to have a 25 carry game.
Probably not. I mean, it could. You never know. But Elijah Young,
a lot of mouths to feed in this offense.
There
this
is.
year.
I don't think that it's going to be like a perfect 50-50 split with touches, but Elijah Young's going to be definitely getting the ball quite a bit.
So then there's 3 guys here. Maybe correct me if I'm forgetting anyone, but Semi Bakari, Dawson Downing, and Michael Cox are 3 players that could potentially slide into that 3rd spot and get some playing time at the running back position. It seems like Missouri, it seems like most college football teams want to have that 3rd running back that they can give a few reps to, just to kind of give their starters a break. Who do you think steps into that role?
Yeah, I mean, Simi Bakari has been in the program for a really long time now, and it would be kind of cool to get to see him have some meaningful snaps. But I just think with the style of running backs that Tyler Beatty and Elijah Young are, I think they'll look to get a bigger back, maybe kind of in the rotation as that 3rd back. That could be Michael Cox. I also think that could be Taj Butts, who is a true freshman this year from this Met, I believe. So and Taj is a much bigger back than Tyler Beatty or Elijah Young, so maybe he would get some goal line touches or something like that. But I guess if I had to choose somebody, though, I think I'd probably just guess that Dawson Downing would probably get the majority of those 3rd string snaps.
All right, now the most important position in all of football, we are talking about the quarterback.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the kicker.
Maybe most loved position in Mizzou football.
Definitely.
We'll get to him in a second. Quarterback. Obviously, this is Conor Basilak's job. He is the starting quarterback. I don't anticipate any sort of quarterback controversy. The coaching staff,
you don't think so?
Is not anticipating anything like that.
That'd be a plot twist.
I do
and
not.
Your starter is Tyler Macon.
Oh no, that first of all, that is definitely not going to happen. I don't even want to entertain the idea of like the fan base calling for anybody else to be playing quarterback.
No,
that kind of stuff terrifies me. Going back to last season, I said it plenty of times. If Conor Basilak's not the starting quarterback, that's not a good sign. I don't see a situation where another quarterback on the roster is just like blowing everybody away so much that job is in jeopardy.
No, 0% chance.
Yeah, it would take like some bad things happening for there to be a conversation like that.
Yeah.
That being said, does Tyler Macon lose his red shirt? Is he going to be the backup this year, or are they going to try to preserve his eligibility as much as possible?
I think you will see, and it just, again, I hope it doesn't even matter who the second stringer is, but I think you'll see Brady Cook be probably the second string guy, and then Tyler Macon for this season will probably be 3rd string. But that is a position battle that is happening for that second string, because if something happens to Basilak, somebody has to go in and play. So I think it'll be Brady Cook this year, and I obviously don't think that Macon will burn the red shirt this year.
So just to be clear, you basically answered this, but we're in the 3rd quarter of a game against South Carolina, and Basilak is shaken up. He has to come out of the game for at least a few plays, if not the rest of the game. You think Brady Cook is the guy that's going in?
I do, just because of his experience in the program. He's played a little bit before, and he's looked pretty decent when he's been in there. So I think that he would be the guy they send out there this season.
Okay. All right. I don't even want to think this far ahead because it's kind of scary, but we're going to have a situation on our hands in 2 years.
Yeah, we are.
Well, that's all I want to say right now. Let's not think about it.
Sam Horn's going to enter the chat pretty soon.
Yeah, we're going to have...
That's a fun problem to have, though. That's a good problem to have.
Okay.
You've got a bunch of guys who are qualified and good enough to play. That's a problem you want to have, I think.
Yeah. It's still a problem.
Still a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
They're gonna rotate like 2 or 3 quarterbacks in. Like, all right, you get a quarter.
That would be a disaster.
Just four different quarterbacks in the game, and they all get their own quarter.
Something's gonna happen there in that quarterback room. Somebody's gonna be the odd man out.
Yeah, I definitely don't like to think about that East St. Louis relationship if Tyler Macon never ends up really having a role as a starter.
Yeah.
But that is a bridge we do not have to cross right now.
We don't have to think of like.
Yeah, maybe we will have to cross in 2 years, but
yeah,
we're good for now.
Yeah, don't think about it. Okay, so special teams. Harrison Mivis, team MVP.
Mivis?
Harrison Mivis.
Thank you.
Sorry. That'll be a tough one for me to shake, obviously. Harrison Mivis, the MVP of the team last year, the fan favorite of the team. He is immediately one of the best kickers in all of college football. the best, in my opinion, in years too, I'm assuming.
Of course.
He's going to be lights out. It's just what a thing to have a reliable kicker in college football.
Yeah, I mean, he was amazing.
And
last year.
we've not had.
He was a freshman last year.
Yeah. We have not had like awful kickers recently. Like
Tucker McCann's on an NFL roster right now.
I know, and some fans would maybe argue with me on that. Like, you remember the kicks that people miss, and so that sticks out. And
yeah, but he could drill like a 62-yarder at the same time.
Right. But when you have a guy that just kind of like makes so many big kicks, it's like. Yeah,
Harrison Mivis, especially as a freshman last year, was unbelievably reliable.
I can't believe I said Mivis.
I can't believe it either. I'm really disappointed. He didn't miss a single extra point last year, and I think he only missed a couple of field goals, and then he drilled the game winner against Arkansas, which I don't know that I would have been able to continue in life if he would have missed it, because I would have been so sad.
Yeah. But also, like, I didn't necessarily expect him to hit it.
Right, yeah. It was a huge kick, and he'll have to face, full stadiums this year, and that's probably not really something he dealt with last year, and that's a big thing as a kicker. Mm-hmm. That is a nerve-wracking moment when it's all coming down to you to make the kick, but he doesn't really seem like a guy that seems too bothered about that kind of stuff. He kind of just, I don't know, he's confident.
Yeah, a lot of like you hear about like kickers being like head cases or something, like they just like can't get over missed kicks or something. I don't know, like I saw interviews of him last year and he's just like, yeah, just come out here and kick. Yeah,
just short memory.
No big deal. So obviously looking forward to seeing him play again. Grant McGinnis is back. He's back, folks. He obviously transferred from Kentucky, and he was okay as punter last year.
Yeah, he doesn't have the biggest leg in the world, but I think he's an accurate punter, I think.
Yeah, so basically, I think that he is excellent when he is like pinning a team deep on their own side of the field. Yeah. Like, let me try to explain this better. When the offense gives them something to work with, and then it's like we're playing field position battle.
They got to pin him inside the 10.
Yeah, exactly. I think he can step up and be very accurate with his punts and get some hang time and put the defense in a pretty good situation. Now, if the offense goes 3 and out, if the offense, fields a touchback, goes 3 and out, then we're probably not looking at great field position for the defense coming up because he just doesn't quite bomb it deep like Corey Fatoni did necessarily.
I was about to say, you're going to have to name a punter here.
Yeah,
I got
one.
I thought you might name like an NFL punter or something.
No. We've had some solid, big-legged punters at Mizzou.
Yeah, Corey Fatoni. Yeah, he was cool.
Give me a Trey Barrow. Okay, I got punters.
Hey, nice job.
Okay, I know punters' names.
Good job.
That's all of them, but those are the ones I know.
Might be all I can think of right at the moment.
Let's end here with kick returner and punt returner. I think Tyler Beatty handled most of the kick returning last year. Mm-hmm. Punt returner has been sketchy.
I can barely even remember who returned punts last year. I know Chris Abrams-Drain was in there for a little bit.
Barrett Bannister would come out and just fair catch everything, which is better than turnovers.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Let's send Mookie Cooper out there.
There's a little better selection of guys this year. Yeah, I think you'll see Cooper, love it, maybe even Jay Macklin out there returning punts.
And Chris Abrams-Drain will probably get another shout at it as well. He's very, very, very fast.
Yeah.
Okay, so I kind of went out of order here. Forget the special teams. Include the special teams if you want.
Throw them out.
Include special teams here if you want. Rank the offensive position groups. We've got tight end, receiver, running back, and quarterback. Again, use whatever metric you want. Stability, upside, or just overall goodness.
Well, again, I think that the fifth place position here was pretty easy for me, and that's tight end, just because there's not as much production in that room. There's not really a go-to guy. The depth isn't as great, but there's certainly potential there. And
so that we'll call that the unit with the most room for improvement.
Yeah, last place. In fourth, I put offensive line. And I think all these position groups are going to.
I forgot about offensive line. They're on the other side of my page.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Okay, go ahead.
Offensive line fourth. I don't know. I mean, you could probably move these guys up. You could definitely make the argument that they should be higher.
Solid, but not exciting.
Yeah. I didn't really know what to do with quarterbacks here because if you're looking at the whole depth of the position, I decided to put them third. Obviously, Conor Basilak, he had a good season last year. He was a freshman. He was the co-offensive freshman of the year, whatever it is.
Yeah, in the SEC.
In the SEC. He had a solid season. He wasn't amazing. He didn't throw for 4,000 yards or anything.
Or very many touchdowns.
Yeah, I think he threw for less than 10 touchdowns. But and he really needs to improve in the red zone. He was not very good in the red zone last year. Missouri was not good as a team in the red zone, and that's something as a team they're going to have to improve on. But I think that Basilak, I think they're going to turn him loose a little bit more this year. I think they trust him more. I think
let him cook.
Let him cook. I think he trusts his own knee probably more now than he did this time last year. He was coming off the ACL injury last year. Mm-hmm. So, and he didn't even win the starting job, actually. He didn't even start the first game. So he's the guy now. He knows that.
That'll always be a bizarre thing.
That will always. I'm not sure I'll ever understand that. But I still went ahead and just ranked him third here, but I would be happy if he outperforms that rank.
Absolutely.
Second, I ranked running back.
Mm-hmm.
I just think Tyler Beatty, you may have heard it before, but I love Tyler Beatty. He's fantastic. And I think Elijah Young is going to surprise people this year. I think he's obviously hasn't played a lot just because of the incredible depth that we've had, but he's going to make a name for himself, I think. And first, I ranked wide receiver. And that was pretty easy, I think.
Yeah.
Just with an incredible amount of upside that position group brings, the talent, the production, the excitement meter is very high for the wide receiver room.
How would you feel about Missouri wide receivers if this was the squad that was rolling out? Mookie Cooper, Dominic Lovett, Barrett Bannister, J.J. Hester, Chance Looper, Jay Macklin, Boo Smith, Michael Wilson.
I mean, I feel good about it, but I definitely think who are the two guys you left off, like Kiki Chisholm and
Towsky Dove.
Yeah, I just think I like what those two guys bring. I mean, they are just a bigger, very reliable hands guys that I think that you listed off a lot of kind of speed guys, mm-hmm. but I really like what the consistency and the upside that those two guys bring. But yeah, I mean, I'd feel good about that room too.
And then exactly. You just bring the perfect balance to that unit.
A lot of different skill sets in that mm-hmm. group, and I think that's
different
a good
sizes, different speeds. Love it.
Dominic Lovett.
Breakout offensive player then.
This one was a little bit tougher just because we have so many returning players.
Yeah.
I literally almost just want to say Tyler Beatty just because I think he can take that big of a step forward from what he's done in the past. I'm losing
That's
word.
fine.
I've got
That's
too many
legitimate.
sheets here. But I'll pick somebody that hasn't played quite as much and probably will this year. Man, it's tough to pick one of those young receivers just because there's so much depth. But I'll throw out J.J. Hester. I think he's not a guy that's gonna go catch a bunch of touchdowns this year or make a huge difference, but he's a guy that will take a big step this year.
Now, my choice here for offensive breakout player is hopeful, but if this happens, it would mean really good things for Missouri's offense, and I am predicting a breakout season for Nico Hay. If he can step up and be the receiving tight end that Missouri needs going into now his junior season, if he can be a breakout player, take the next step, then this Missouri offense will be scary good and will be looking pretty.
Yeah, I love that pick for sure. If that were to happen, that would mean wonderful things.
Okay. Man, we talked about a lot of players.
Yeah, we did. I blitzed through that.
Exactly. I felt like we went fast. I could keep going on a lot of that stuff for quite a while. But yeah, that's the Missouri roster. That's what we're working with. And more specifically, those are the players that Kyle and I will be choosing from next week when we do our 3-on-3 draft. If you haven't been around for that before, it's kind of unique.
How many?
How many what? 3-on-3? Oh, 7-on-7 draft? 3-on-3 is basketball.
3-on-3 basketball draft with football players.
That would be interesting.
We'd have
7-on-7.
Yes.
NFL Street video game style. So the players that we draft for our squads have to play both sides of the ball. I just want to mention that I picked Jon Robinson last year.
That was a good pick.
And I said that he would play safety when he was on defense me. I did.
Wow.
And he, in fact, is now a safety.
Wow.
So
That's
I think
some kind of parallel universe thing.
Yeah. I peeked into it and saw that he could be a safety.
Yeah, whoever gets that first pick, I think I know who they're going to pick most likely.
Yeah,
but we'll get to that whenever that happens. Is that next week or 2 weeks?
Next week.
Okay.
I believe.
Looking forward to that. Yeah, I mean, this stuff is so fun to talk about. It's kind of what we just have to stew on for months and months of the off season, and we just have to daydream about guys that take that next step. But that is what excites me. That gets me going for sure. So that first week, just seeing the new guys out there in the uniform,
and the new uniforms,
and just I don't know. I don't care who scores.
Nope.
I'm excited for whoever it is. It's fun to see those guys progress in their careers and perform for Old Mizzou.
Next week, we'll also be breaking down the entire schedule, previewing each game, giving our picks, our overall record predictions. So come back for that. Other than that, I think that'll do it for this week.
We're very close.
Can't wait.
Getting fun. All right, everybody. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. We're on Twitter at Mizzou Sports Pod, and you can email us at MissouriSportsPod@gmail.com.
You can find our t-shirts and stickers on our online shop, MissouriSportsPod.BigCartel.com.
Special thanks to our Patreon supporters at the $10 level and above: Brian Smith, Ryan Lee, Tristan, Ben Smith, Parker, and Daddy JD. Thank you everyone for listening. We will see you next week.